Mitra Jainapurji. She will start this program.
Namaste, I am Pavitra Janapur Busa and I welcome you all on behalf of the National Council of Asian Indian Association and all Indian American community organizations. Today, Indian diaspora is proud to celebrate Parakram Diwas by giving our respect and tribute to our national hero, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, on his 125th birth anniversary. It's our pleasure to have some of the accomplished guests with us today, and we have also a couple of cultural programs lined up. With that, I will turn it over to NCAIA Virginia President Naina Desai ji to take it forward. Thank you. Naina ji, over to you.
Namaskar. I am Naina Desai, President of NCAIA HQs in Virginia. Would like to seize this opportunity to thank you all for joining to celebrate a Parakram Day for India's beloved son, Subhash Chandra Bose. Also known as Netaji, his role in India independence movement was highly. He had many excellent qualities: brilliant student, brave, great freedom fighter, skillful, and patriot. He believed Bhagavad Gita as a source of inspiration. I very much like Netaji's quote: "Men, money, and materials cannot by themselves bring victory or freedom." We are live from Chicago with our national president, Harish Kolasali, in metropolitan Washington, D.C. area. Excellent program with inspiring speeches, interspersed with the several cultural items. Please join the program. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, Naina ji. Now I request Dr. Shambhu Banikji, Vice Chairman of NCAIA, National and one of the very senior community leaders in Washington, D.C. area, to introduce Shri Anurag Kumarji, Minister of Community Affairs, Indian Embassy.
Gentlemen, it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce to you one of the finest Minister of Community Affairs during my association with the Indian Embassy for the past 50 years, Shri Anurag Kumarji. In March 2018, when he arrived, within a few days' time, he invited a number of leaders from NCAIA. And I can tell you, in the month of March, we felt spring has come to Washington. He was so warm, he was so friendly, and he promised that from this time on, he will cooperate, he will be part of the community. And I am very proud to say that he has made this promise not only possible, but it made it more cemented. Every event that NCAIA organized or any community organized, he had been part and parcel of that event. He is very articulate, friendly, and highly accessible. He is from 1994 IPS cadet. When he joined, he brought so much connectivity, so much communication. During the Prime Minister visit, he helped the community to the greater extent. When he came to know that he's living in March, already the community is in deep gear to welcome as well as to have a hearty farewell for him. And Sant Gupta ji has been made the coordinator for this event. So we are very happy that Anurag Kumarji is with us this morning. He has a beautiful, ever smiling wife, Akanksha, and a daughter who is in the college. So please join me with a round of applause to welcome Shri Anurag Kumarji, Minister of Community Affairs.
Thank you, Dr. Banik. I am not as eloquent as you are, and I mean that's the fulsome praise. I don't know how much of it I deserve or I don't deserve, but thank you so much for a very, very kind introduction. I see that all important senior community leaders are here. So chairman of the NCAIA is there, Mr. Sunil Singh is there, President Naina Desai ji is there, Dr. Adappa Prasad I also see, Harish ji also see. I see a lot of there. If I take names, then I keep on taking names. So please allow me to wish all of you a very good morning today on this Saturday. NCAIA and other community organizations have joined today morning to organize this very, very important program in memory of our Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And that is really a great work and a great thing. All of us at some point or the other have always been absolutely inspired by Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and continue to be inspired by him. And his legacy is being carried all over the world. NCAIA has been quite active in as a community organization to bring together the people from all different shades of opinion, and it is reflective of the true and rich diversity of the country. It has been active in carrying out all its social obligations, the community outreach, the community functions, and I wish that it will continue to do so. And Harish is also here. Harish Kulasani from Chicago is there, and he has been very active. And digitally also, he has been very active in carrying out the programs. I wish NCAIA and all the community organizations which have joined today and otherwise a very fruitful discussion, a very fruitful program today, and all the best for their future endeavors. Thank you very much for having me there in the program today. And once again, I thank you all and wish you all the success for the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty, for joining us today. Now I request Vidya Sagarji and Urmila Prasadji to sing Vande and Mera Rang De Basanti for us. Thank you.
All is not good.
Thank you, Netaji.
Thank you so much.
ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, मेरा रंग दे, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओए रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, मेरा रंग दे, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओए रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे बसंती चोला। जब निकले इस देश की खातिर बस इतना अरमान है, एक बार इस राह में मरना 100 जन्मों के समान है। देख वीरों की कुर्बानी, देख वीरों की कुर्बानी, अपना दिल भी बोला मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, मेरा रंग दे, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओए रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे बसंती चोला। जिस चोले को पहन शिवाजी खेले अपनी जान पे, जिस चोले को पहन शिवाजी खेले अपनी जान पे, जिसे पहन झांसी की रानी मिट गई अपनी आन पे, आज उसी को पहन के निकला, पहन के निकला, आज उसी को पहन के निकला हम मस्तों का टोला, मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, मेरा रंग दे, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओए रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, मेरा रंग दे, ओ मेरा रंग दे बसंती चोला, ओए रंग दे बसंती चोला, माए रंग दे बसंती चोला।
Thank you so much.
जय हिंद।
Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, Netaji. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I invite Nephew Banerjee, member of NCAIA active leader, to introduce Chandra Kumar. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much. First of all, let me congratulate NCIA and their leadership for doing a wonderful event like this and allowing me to introduce the grandnephew of Shri Chandra Kumar Bose. So we are very blessed today that not only one member of Honorable Netaji's family, but we have 3 family members of Shri Netaji's family today. Number 1, we have Shri Chandra Kumar Bose from Kolkata joining us. Then we have Shri Madhuri Bose, Netaji's grandniece, human rights activist, former researcher with the United Nations Commonwealth Secretariat, author of Bose Brothers and Indian Independence, an Insider View, from London joining in. Then Sri Surya Kumar Bose, Netaji's grandnephew, who is IT professional based in Germany, Hamburg, also joining us. Then we have Mr. Somo Shankar Bose, General Secretary of International Human Rights Organization from Kolkata. Then Mr. Sumen Roy Chaudhuri, Netaji's activist and researcher from Kolkata, joining in today, along with Kiran Menon, engineer and Netaji's follower from Kolkata, and Devashish Ghosh, Netaji's activist from Meerut, and Pushpal Chakraborty, member, the open platform for Netaji. Now, everybody knows Mr. Chandra Kumar Bose, but I'm just going to give a brief bio very briefly because his is very, very long. So I'm just going to say a few, pick the few sentences over here. So Chandra Kumar Bose, son of Amyanath Bose and Josna Bose, grandson of Sarat Chandra Bose and grandnephew of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who is like my dada. We know each other from 2017. We have a good communication going on and will be part of our platform as well from their part of NGOs. So he has achieved scholastic achievement obtained from general certificates, education from UK's, studied economics in Hendon College, London. His career, 1982, started his career as management from Tata Steel. Then Sri Chandra Kumar Bose started his own consultancy firm in human resource and development, also an entrepreneur. He also worked on social issues associated with Indian Socialist Democratic Forum, an organization conducting awareness program for the people on human rights in India. ISDF assists people in legal matters where rights have been violated. And he has been associated with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Foundation, rightfully so. And also Sri Chandra Kumar Bose is a spokesperson and convener of Open Platform for Netaji from 2012, and his peer headed the declassification of Netaji Files movement, which gathered momentum not only India and worldwide. And also he's part of political leadership. And also, no further ado, I will welcome Sri Chandra Kumar Bose. Please, Dada, we are waiting for you to speak. Namaskar. Please unmute, Dada.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. And good morning. Good morning to the Indian American diaspora, overseas Indians who are based in the US and other parts of the world. And certainly, of course, friends in India and in Asia. We would like to talk today about a man who was known as the liberator of India, a man who was the first Prime Minister of undivided India, a man who fought the final battle for India's freedom, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. You see, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's personality is multidimensional. He was a political leader, he was a statesman, he was a soldier, and above all, he was a visionary who planned the development of India after independence. You see, there are many who fought for India's independence, right from 1857 onwards till 1947. But very rarely we have come across a leader, a statesman, who was a visionary, who planned 100 years after independence, what would India emerge as? So now I would quickly go through Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's early life, his becoming a leader, his inspiration that he got from Swami Vivekananda and Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. So we all know that Subhash Chandra Bose was born in Cuttack on the 23rd of January, 1897. People of Orissa, they feel that Subhash Bose, as he was born in Cuttack, he is from Orissa, he is a Oriya. Netaji's political career started in Bengal. So people in Bengal feel that he is from Bengal. If you see the Azad Hind Fauj, there were people from the Punjab, people from the south, from Kerala, Tamil Nadu. So people from the south feel Subhash Chandra Bose is ours from the south. People from northern India feel that he was ours because we also fought for him in the Azad Hind Fauj. But Subhash Chandra Bose was a Bharatiya. He was the only leader who could unite all communities, all religions, caste and creed as one, as Bharatiyas. I think this is the essence of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's relevance in 21st century India, that he could unite all the communities as one to fight for India's freedom. Now you are aware that he was a brilliant student. Subhash Chandra Bose started his early schooling in Cuttack. Then he moved to Presidency College. As you know, we would not go into details of what happened in Presidency College, but he had protested against his Professor Oten, because Professor Oten was insulting to fellow Indians. He was making certain derogatory remarks. So Netaji stood against these remarks. He was expelled from Presidency. Then he finally completed his graduation from the Scottish Church College in Calcutta. He went abroad. He went to Cambridge University. He studied philosophy. There, Subhash Bose also sat for the ICS examination. As you are aware that in those days, the ICS examination was an extremely tough examination to crack. Subhash Bose only got 8 months to study for the ICS exam. The ICS examination is a 2-year full-time course, but Subhash studied only for 8 months and he stood 4th. You know, if he would have got 2 years to study for his ICS, he probably would have stood first. But Subhash Bose always took the difficult path in his career. He decided to resign from the ICS because he clearly stated that he could not serve 2 masters. His only master was India, Bharat. He could not serve a second master, the British Empire. That is the reason why he submitted his resignation. You know, Subhash Chandra Bose's father, my great-grandfather Janakinath Bose, was not very happy that Subhash resigned from the ICS, because all parents in those days, they would like their children to have a comfortable career, to have a comfortable life. But that was not to be for Subhash Chandra Bose. He resigned and he wrote to his father that I cannot serve 2 masters, so I would like to come back to India and serve the nation and fight for India's freedom. There was one person who supported Subhash's efforts. That was my grandfather, Sarat Chandra Bose. Sarat Chandra Bose stood like a rock of Gibraltar with his younger brother Subhash right through his entire career, right through the freedom struggle. You see, the Bose brothers, they were united in their effort to fight for Purna Swaraj, to fight for complete independence, and always wanted undivided, united India. They were completely against the division of the country on religious grounds. They opposed the partition of India. But unfortunately, Subhash Bose did not come back to India when India finally attained freedom in 1947 on the 15th of August. If Subhash Bose would have come back to India, I feel that India would have remained united. Now, Subhash Bose returned to India in 1921. He met Mahatma Gandhi in Mumbai. Mahatma Gandhi advised him to go to Kolkata and start his political career with Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, another stalwart, a national icon, whose contribution is still not properly written in the schools and college textbooks. I think the time has come that national icons who have been neglected, whose contribution have been obliterated from the history textbooks must be documented, written and published for the youth of our country. Now, when Subhash Bose returned to India and Kolkata, he was associated with the Kolkata Municipal Corporation. As you know, he worked as the chief executive officer under the mayor, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. That time, if you see the social activity that Subhash Bose totally got involved with, he used to be right on the streets of Kolkata, working for improving sanitation, improving the livelihood of the downtrodden, ensuring that people get basic amenities. So there you see, we have always known Subhash as a great leader, leading from the front. We have known him as the supreme commander of the Azad Hind Fauj. We have known him as the first Prime Minister of undivided India. But Subhash Bose started his career right from the grassroots level, right from the streets of Kolkata, working for the development of the people. Now, 1938 was this historic presidential election of the Congress Party. As you are aware, 1938 was the Haripura Congress, where Subhash Bose was elected as the president of the Congress Party for the first time. There, if you see the Haripura Congress speech of Subhash Chandra Bose, the kind of social and economic reconstruction that he has suggested in his speech, I think it is something that we must today learn and understand. We must understand what really Subhash Chandra Bose stood for. You see, he believed in socialist ideology. He believed that India should have a very strong army. India should be able to protect its borders. You see, Subhash Bose was greatly influenced by the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda's character building ideology, Subhash implemented in his Azad Hind Fauj. He got tremendous mental strength from the teachings of Swami Vivekananda. Subhash Bose was a very spiritual person. He was also a Kali Bhakt. He used to go and pray at the Dakshineshwar Mandir when he was distressed, when he was going through a lot of pressure, fighting for India's freedom. He used to get a lot of comfort praying at the Dakshineshwar temple. But Subhash Bose never mixed up religion with politics. He respected and honored all religions. He was himself a very staunch Hindu. He was a devout Hindu, but he believed that in politics and public life, religion should not be mixed up. This is a message that we would like to give to the people of our nation and the world, that we respect all religion, we must practice our religion, but it is our personal belief. It is a personal matter. We should not bring it to the public domain. We should not mix it up with politics. This is a lesson that we must learn from Subhash Chandra Bose. Then in 1939, when the Congress presidential elections were held again, Subhash Bose stood for that election. This was known as the Tripuri Congress. You see, Mahatma Gandhi and Subhash Bose had great respect for each other. It is Subhash Chandra Bose who addressed Mahatma Gandhi from Southeast Asia when he was leading the Azad Hind Fauj as father of the nation. Today we all address Mahatma Gandhi as the father of the nation, but it was Subhash Bose who had addressed him as the father of the nation for the first time. And Mahatma Gandhi also reciprocated by stating that Subhash Bose was patriot of patriots, prince of patriots. So there was a mutual respect for each other, but their ideology was different. Their paths to attain freedom was different. See, in 1939, it was unfortunate that in spite of having so much of mutual respect, Mahatma Gandhi put up a candidate against Subhash Chandra Bose, Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. Now, everyone believed that Pattabhi Sitaramaiah would obviously win the election because he was Mahatma Gandhi's candidate. But when the election results were declared, Subhash Chandra Bose defeated Pattabhi Sitaramaiah. So this was the personality of this man. And do you know, people who had voted Subhash Chandra Bose, it was not from one particular state. People from the south, people from North India, they all supported Subhash Chandra Bose's candidature as the president of the Indian National Congress. I must clarify that the Indian National Congress in those days was not a political party. It was a platform to fight for India's freedom. And all leaders of that era who were fighting for India's freedom joined the Indian National Congress platform. My grandfather, Sarath Chandra Bose, in fact, served for 42 long years on the Congress platform. He, of course, resigned from the Congress because he vehemently opposed the partition of India. Now, coming to the question as to why Subhash Chandra Bose resigned from the Congress presidentship and left for abroad to fight for India's freedom. Of course, one reason was there were differences of opinion with the Congress leadership. There was differences with Mahatma Gandhi, with Sardar Patel, with Mr. Nehru. But that was not the only reason. Subhash Bose realized that from within the country, from within the Congress, it would be impossible to drive out the might of the British Empire. He had realized that only an armed struggle can drive out the British from India. And Congress was not in a position to conduct or raise an army to fight for India's freedom. Most of the Congress leaders, whenever they did this non-violent struggle, Subhash Bose supported the non-violent struggle initially. He was imprisoned many times due to this struggle. But the point is, whenever there was a struggle, the Salt Satyagraha in the 30s, the Quit India movement in 1942, most of these leaders were immediately arrested and put behind bars. So there was no one to give leadership for this non-violent movement or non-cooperation movement. This was not the approach to attain freedom. Subhash Bose realized that. And that is the reason he left the Congress and went abroad. The 17th of January, 1941, the historic day when Subhash Chandra Bose went out of his Elgin Road residence in Kolkata. A lot of people call it the Great Escape. I somehow beg to differ. It was not a great escape. It was a journey, the final journey for India's freedom. I think that would be the right connotation. Final journey for India's freedom. Subhash Bose left on 17th of January, 1941, from Kolkata to Gomo, from Gomo to Peshawar, from Peshawar to Kabul, from Kabul to Moscow, and from Moscow to Berlin. This journey, one of the most dangerous journey that he conducted, he was intercepted many times. In Peshawar, in Kabul, he was almost on the verge of getting assassinated. The British intelligence had given instructions that the moment Subhash Bose crosses over to Afghanistan, leaves the shores of India, he should be assassinated and killed. But Subhash Bose, the conviction that he had, you see, his drishti was like Arjuna. You see, when Arjuna was asked to pierce the eye of the fish with his bow and arrow, people inquired that, what are you looking at? He said, I'm not looking at anything except the eye of the fish, and I would pierce it with my bow and arrow. The same drishti, the same focus Subhash Bose had for India's freedom. Similarly, as a warrior, you can compare Subhash Bose with Maharana Pratap. So this was this man. So he conducted this journey and he went to Germany. He met Hitler. You see, when he was in Germany, the discussions that he had with Hitler, many of you may be aware that he discussed with Hitler in his own terms. He had to wait for a while to get an appointment with Hitler. Hitler was a very difficult man, as you know. Probably Subhash Bose never liked Hitler personally, but he realized, he adopted this method that my enemy's enemy is my friend. And during the Second World War, it was Germany who had the strength to fight the British. And that is why he took the help of Germany. And when he met Hitler, he told Hitler that your biography that you have written, Mein Kampf, there are certain sentences you have written about fellow Indians. That is not correct at all. You have no idea about the rich heritage and culture of India. First, you must understand India. Then only you can write in your book. You must delete the paragraph that you have written about India. Subhash Bose had the guts, had the strength to tell this to Hitler directly on his face. And the second thing that he did, sitting in Berlin, he was able to issue a public statement. Germany was planning to attack Soviet Russia. He clearly made a statement that the German aggression of Russia would not be accepted by India, will not be tolerated by India. So Hitler could have just shot him. Hitler could have eliminated him. But Hitler realized that this was a man who was a true patriot. This was a man who was a nationalist. This was a man who has traveled across continents to fight for his country's freedom. So I must help him. Without Hitler's help, Subhash Bose could not have reached Southeast Asia. During the Second World War, it was impossible to travel over ground. The only way he could have reached Southeast Asia, which he did, was with the help of a submarine. This 90-day submarine journey during the Second World War was probably the most treacherous and dangerous journey that any man has ever undertaken. But he did it. He was so focused to fight for India's freedom. When he reached the coast of Madagascar, there was extremely rough weather near the coast of Madagascar. Hitler had given instructions that there would be a Japanese submarine waiting for Subhash, and Subhash has to cross over to the Japanese submarine from the German boat. But that was not possible technically.
Beg your pardon, Chandra, actually, the time is up. There are
I will conclude.
I'm so sorry. I think we need to see another day for 1 hour.
Sure.
I think
I will just conclude. Yeah. You
sure.
see, the captain of the German submarine has written in his book that this was a man who was so committed that he insisted that he has to cross over to the Japanese boat. And there was the only one way to do it. He was given a small rubber raft, a small rubber boat, where he and his colleague, Abid Hassan, got into that boat and they reached the Japanese submarine to continue the battle for India's freedom. Now, in order to conclude, I would like to state that right from 1857 onwards, with the Sepoy uprising of Mangal Pandey, then you have seen Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent movement. You have seen Shahid Bhagat Singh, Khudiram Bose, Binoy Badol Dinesh, Surjoda, the revolutionaries who sacrificed their lives by going to the gallows. Every person contributed towards the freedom of our nation. But the final onslaught on British imperialism was none other than the Battle of the Azad Hind Fauj and the subsequent INA trials, which were held at the Red Fort in early 1946, which completely destroyed the loyalty and allegiance of the British forces to the British High Command. These are not my words. These are words of Lord Clement Attlee, who has stated this in no uncertain terms. These are words of the last Viceroy of India, Lord Louis Mountbatten. This is also documented. And these are words of Field Marshal Auchinleck, who was in charge of the British Armed Forces in India during the Second World War. So in order to give respect, we are celebrating the 125th anniversary of the liberator of India, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. The NDA government, under the leadership of Narendra Modi ji, has declared 23rd January as Parakram Diwas. We are very happy about it. But people of India, ordinary citizens of India, people of Indian origin living abroad, they recognize Subhash Chandra Bose as patriot of patriots. So we should also celebrate this day, Parakram Divas and Patriots Day, because Subhash Bose was certainly the Prince of Patriots. With these words, I would like to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity to share certain of my thoughts. I'm sure we would get more opportunity to discuss in detail about Netaji's planning. You see, Netaji wanted political, economic, and social freedom. We have attained political freedom, but we are still a far cry away of attaining social and economic freedom that Subhash Chandra Bose stood for. So we would discuss that another day. With these words, thank you very much and good day to all of you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dada. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Chandrakumar Boshji. Thanks for giving us some unknown insight into early life and also some unknown stories of Netaji's braveries. It's an honor to have you and your family for this event today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I request Shri Adapa Prasad ji to introduce Dr. Anirban Ganguly ji. Dr. Adapa Prasad has been a scientist, IT professional, community, and thought leader. Currently, he's the national president of Overseas Friends of BJP USA, and he's the official representative of BJP in USA. Over to you, Adapa Prasad ji.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. Namaste all. On this auspicious occasion, Dr. Anirban Ganguly ji has accepted to address this August gathering. And it is really a great privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Anirban ji. We are very fortunate to have him because Anirban ji is a member of this high-level committee constituted in Cultural Ministry of India, Government of India, headed by none other than Honorable Prime Minister of India, Manani Narendra Modi ji, as its members to observe Netaji's 125th birth anniversary across India and abroad. And I'm glad that Indian diaspora leadership in USA is paying tributes to Netaji while observing his birth anniversary. Dr. Anirban Ganguly ji is the director of Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Research Foundation. It is a think tank of the BJP. He is a member of the core committee of Bengal BJP. He also served as the national co-in-charge of the library and documentation department of BJP and member of the policy research department of the party earlier. He has extensively worked in the areas of public policy and political research. Dr. Ganguly ji is a scholar of civilization, history, politics, and culture. He served earlier as the member of Central Advisory Board of Education in the Ministry of Human Resources Development. He is also served as the member of Indian National Commission for Cooperation with UNESCO, Nehru Memorial Museum and Library in Ministry of Culture, Government of India, Governing Board of Auroville Foundation, and Vishwa Bharati Sansad Shanti Niketan. Dr. Ganguly had his early education at Sri Aurobindo Ashram in Puducherry, Pondicherry, and holds a master's in international relations, a postgraduate diploma in mass communication and journalism, and a PhD in education from Jadavpur University, Kolkata. He lectures in various leading universities and institutions across the country and abroad, and has extensively traveled all over the world and spoken at a number of think tanks and conferences. Dr. Ganguly has authored, edited, co-edited several books, numerous papers, chapters, and monographs related to civilizational issues, politics, education, and culture. He is a columnist with a number of leading dailies. So, Anirbanji, welcome. Thank you very much for accepting this. Over to you.
Adapaji, thank you so much for such a gracious introduction. But I feel when the introduction is longer than the achievements, it means that one has really not achieved anything. I think for all of us who have gathered here today, the only introduction which is relevant is that each of us aspire in our own way to be or to emulate, to absorb, to radiate a bit of Subhash. I think that's the only introduction worth. And I think that's as I stand here, as I sit here today, speaking and interacting with all of you, having listened to Chandrada, I think there's a sense of being overwhelmed by what he was, what he continues to be, and what he embodies in the consciousness, in the eternity of India. And his 125th birth anniversary, if we remove that one before, he would have been a young 25 today. That energy, that zeal, that commitment to India's civilizational India, that is the perenniality in Subhash and in his legacy. Therefore, I'm extremely honored and grateful to all of you, to so many eminent personalities of the Indian diaspora, friends, many of you friends who have been in touch continuously over so many years. I'm extremely honored to be able to come here, to be in your presence. I don't have the stature or standing to speak on Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, but as Prime Minister said, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi reminded us on 23rd January in Kolkata, that it is in the people's heart, in the collective consciousness, in our national psyche, that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and his legacy continue to live, despite official attempt to marginalize him, official attempt to suppress his legacy, official attempt to confuse the narrative of his contribution to India in the past 75 years. And I'm not going to be politically correct today, because what probably I'm saying is what millions of our countrymen feel about the way Netaji's legacy had been handled in the last 70 years of independent India's existence. Now, I just want to, Adapaji, kindly stop me when my time is up. In fact, I would leave a bit of my time for Chandrada, because I saw many admiring comments asking him to continue. And I certainly would want him to continue. Therefore, I would, as you have in your presidential system in the US, some of my time can be transferred, if not the votes. So, my great-grandfather, Upendranath Banerjee, was the first batch of political prisoners to be deported to the cellular jail in Andaman. And he stayed there for 10 years, having been a co-accused with Shri Aurobindo in the Alipur bomb case. And just after a few months after he was transported to the cellular jail in Andaman, he was joined by Veer Savarkar in the same jail, and they stayed for a decade in the Kalapani. Now, why I'm saying this is that perhaps each one of us want to trace some link, in a sense, a surreal touch where we can probably touch Subhash. And I'm saying this, it's because of that. My great-grandfather, after his release from prison, came back to the mainland, went into active politics again, close to Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, and then a very close associate of Subhash. And I remember my grandmother in childhood telling me, because just 3 days down the line is Saraswati Puja, how Netaji would come at our place in North Kolkata and attend Saraswati Puja organized by, celebrated worship by Upendranath Banerjee. And my grandmother, very young at that time, could never forget those particular days till the end of her life. And she would keep referring to that. Therefore, even a second, even a minute, even an hour of having spent in his presence left an indelible imprint on all those who came in touch with him, political, social, or otherwise. What I would like to share today is that we have to realize that in the last 70 years, and this is a question that new India, young India must repeatedly ask also. It is for the first time that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's birth anniversary, his birthday, is being observed and celebrated as it ought to have been post-independence. Without Parakram, Desh Bhakti has no basis. You may love your country, you may be a patriot, but you have to be equipped to be able to protect your freedom. You have to be equipped to be able to protect the borders of your country. You have to be a Parakrami in order to express your patriotism. A patriotism devoid of Parakram makes no sense really. And in fact, Subhash, in his life, embodied, symbolized all of these in a formidable synergy never seen in any other leader throughout the India's struggle for independence. He was Parakrami, he was certainly a Deshanayak and Deshapremi, but he was one who stood uncompromisingly, and who could foresee that once India became independent, what ought to be done with that independence, the manner in which that independence ought to be protected, and that could be done only through Atmanirbharta, multi-dimensional Atmanirbharta. And therefore, as Prime Minister Modi wonderfully, inspiringly put it, I would urge all of you to please, you may have already listened to it, to please go back and continue to listen once more to his address in Kolkata on 23rd January. And what an inspiring, I think inspiring is a very cliched word. I think it laid a roadmap. He laid a roadmap of what the India of Subhash ought to be. And we have a time frame till 2047. For the next 25 years, for the next quarter century, we have time for the next quarter century to turn India into Subhash's India. And as he's put it, he said that he's speaking of defense self-reliance, Atmanirbharta in defense. He said, on the one hand, we can import the Rafale. On the other hand, we can even put together the Tejas combat aircraft. This is the kind, and we have the temerity, if I may use the word temerity, we have the gumption, we have the determination to also ensure that not an inch of our land, of our territory is bartered away or is taken away. And as someone who has got into the grassroots, who has extensively gone around, I'm feeling the palpable acceptance, the palpable relief, so to say, amongst people that yes, today, as we inch towards 75th year of our independence, finally, Netaji is being given the due that he deserved from a free India. And I put this question because I'm now camping in Kolkata. We have a battle ahead. And therefore, I'm camping in West Bengal. And there's a widely read Bengali daily, Chandrada knows, and I'm not going to name that daily and edify it. A Bengali daily had the they thought they would tutor the Prime Minister of India in how he should disseminate Subhash's ideals and his message. I found that strange, because which other Prime Minister of independent India, standing in India's parliament, standing in that very same Port Blair, standing on the rampart of the Red Fort, addressed Netaji as the first Prime Minister of free India, in a sense, as the first Prime Minister. And even last week, Prime Minister Narendra Modi again emphasized on that aspect. And the kind of wave, the kind of response that just this assertion generated in the people of India has been phenomenal, because he's exactly spoken, he's exactly articulated that which lay hidden, which lay suppressed and marginalized in the hearts of the millions of our country. Absolutely. And that is exactly what Prime Minister Modi is insisting on. It is to follow his vision of India. His vision of India was a self-reliant India. His vision of India was a secure India. His vision of India was an India which would regain her position in the Committee of Nations without hesitations. His India was an India which would overcome the hesitations of history, as Prime Minister Modi used this historic phrase standing in the US Congress. He spoke in another context, but that is a context which can be linked to the vision of India that Subhash had. Unfortunately, in West Bengal, there has been a lot of lip service to Netaji's legacy. But till date, textbooks in West Bengal, Chandrada referred to the need for instituting Subhash Chandra's legacy, his life, in our curriculum. Textbooks in West Bengal have completely avoided reinstating Netaji's life, his legacy, his contribution. That has to be done. That has not been done. It has not been done deliberately. There has been no discussion on that. Erecting memorials, naming streets, naming institutions after him is one thing. But in West Bengal, in his own karma bhumi, so to say, in the initial years, that is missing. And it has not happened. That is one thing that needs to be focused on. Second is, what kind of Bengal Subhash envisaged? Would it be denominational development or development for all? Would it be a Bengal marginalized, away, disjointed, divorced from the mainstream of India? Certainly not. Subhash embodied India. He was a magnified India. At the same time, he was a rooted, quintessential Bengali. He embodied the aspirations of young Bengal. He articulated those aspirations. He represented those aspirations. And Shurjoda is here. I tried when, 2 years ago when I was in Hamburg, I specially sent out a message to the embassy. Shurjoda was not there. He was in India. And each time we crossed and they told me where Netaji was, I couldn't hold myself back. Even now, after so many years, so many decades, every place that he has been to has that vibration if one were to want to feel it. Therefore, as we move towards 75th year of India's independence, and as we celebrate Netaji's 125th year, what is required is that we need to really articulate the narrative of Netaji's India. We need to link it to the vision of New India. Netaji represented New India in his time and in his age. His articulations continue to express the hopes of New India. And that sentence that Netaji asked Shishir Bose, that question that Netaji asked Shishir Bose, Amar ekta kaj korte parbe? Can you do a small task for me? Before that the entire journey started towards, in a sense, towards his immortality. Can you do a small task for me? And Prime Minister Modi repeatedly asked us that, Amar ekta kaj korte parbe? It is as if Netaji continues to ask us, when it comes to India, when it comes to re-establishing India as a civilizational state, can you do that work for me? Can you do that little bit for me? And therefore, I think we are at an extremely opportune moment, at a very critical moment for us as a country, as a civilization. And at this time, when we are moving towards India's centenary of India's independence, it is extremely important that we discuss his life. It is more important that we discuss his vision of India and how we are moving towards it and what more can be done to realize that vision. And so therefore, I just wanted to express these few emotions and feelings that I had. And the more we discuss Netaji, the more dimensions appear before us. But at least to start with, we must realize that, and we must, it is gratifying that his legacy is getting the recognition that it ought to have got 70 years ago. Thank you so much.
Dr. Ganguly ji, thank you so much for sharing how and what needs to be done to carry forward Netaji's legacy. And we do hope that as a nation we'll succeed in doing that. We really appreciate you taking our time today to join us. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pavitra ji. And I'm not going to get into, if I get into an entire narrative of what is divisive politics, what we understand by divisive politics, and the kind of divisive politics that was done post-independence and what Netaji would have wanted and not wanted, that would require a separate, topic or discussion altogether.
Yeah, we'll
But
certainly
let us remember that, for the first time after 70 years, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas is being adhered to in letter and spirit, and it is not a slogan, unlike in the last 70 years. And therefore, I think Netaji would have appreciated and would have encouraged that. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Now let's watch a video message by ANITA Bose ji, a daughter of Netaji.
Namaskar. I salute India and I pray for the Indian people during these trying times of a raging pandemic. 124 years ago, one of India's most renowned sons, my father Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, was born in Cuttack. And the Indian national government and the state governments have decided to honor him during this oncoming 125th year after his birth. Thank you very much for this decision. Netaji was a man of thought and also of action, and he envisaged for his country a country which would be modern, enlightened, and at the same time deeply rooted in her history, in her philosophy and her religious traditions. And he foresaw that there would be many challenges to be faced after attaining independence. Of course, he had hoped to be a part of those people who would face them, but unfortunately that was not to be. But all of us, we normal people, even if we cannot contribute as great things as the freedom fighters of those days did, can make our small contributions to the well-being of India, of the Indian citizens, and the citizens of the world. Netaji was a very devout man. He was a devout Hindu, but a Hindu very tolerant towards all other religions, and he inspired his followers, the members of the INA, and his friends and his family in these sentiments to respect other religions and yet be very religious himself. Netaji's dominant emotion was his great love for his country, and that superseded everything else. His loyalty towards his friends and towards his family, the concern for his own safety, and he risked his life for India's freedom. We all can hope to contribute something to our fellow men and women, and I hope that we can all take an inspiration from Netaji's ideas and ideals, and I salute you in these efforts. Jai Hind.
That's a wonderful message from Anita ji. Now I request Srimati Shashi Agarwal ji, Executive Vice President of NCAIA, to introduce Ambassador Harswarup Singh ji. Shashi ji, over to you.
Namaskar everyone. Shashi Agarwal ki taraf se. Just a minute. It is my distinct honor and personal pleasure to introduce to you a personality who is well known to the entire community and does not need much introduction. He is our national chairman, Dr. Harswarup Singh ji. Since the inception of NCAIA, he had been a topping force and beacon of light to bring NCAIA to this lofty level. He got his PhD in economics from the State University on a Kellogg Foundation's research grant from North Carolina State University. Before coming to the US to work with an UN-affiliated intergovernmental organization, he started his research career at the Delhi School of Economics. In the US, he worked for over 2 decades, rising to the director's level in the UN system. Thereafter, he went back to India to hold for important jobs. He was Vice Chancellor of Chaudhry Charan Singh Haryana Agricultural University, as well as member of the Planning Commission in the rank of Minister of State. He was High Commissioner, Ambassador in Maldives, and Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry, cabinet rank, among many other posts. He has written about half a dozen excellent books, on bureaucracy, diplomacy, and environment in particular. Ambassador Singh is a truly versatile man, scholar, Toastmaster, public speaker, multilingual, spokesman, honorary colonel commandant of NCC, and so on. Please welcome our national chair and our dear friend, Ambassador Dr. Harsharup Singh Ji, who will speak on his personal experience with Anita Bose, daughter of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and her husband. Ambassador Harsharup Singh Ji.
हेलो
ठीक है, सुनाई दे रहा डॉक्टर साहब?
ओके फ्रेंड्स, we are running over time, but since the programs are so enjoyable and instructive, exciting, inspiring, I don't think anybody seems to mind. I will start with a few words on Netaji, because you have heard a good bit from these very competent people who know a lot, who have studied, who are historians, who are accomplished people. So you have a lot now that you can digest, and some of the information was new to me. I'm very happy about that. First thing I would say is that I'm very appreciative that when this thought occurred to me to I'm seeing something came on the screen to start your video. Start my video, I would say. Okay. I was very fond of the achievements of Netaji. In a college debate, I talked about the need for violence. We could not get, nobody would hand you over freedom. It has to be taken. And I thought that we should try to follow those principles. I saw some of the people close to Netaji. When I was a student in Kanpur, Sehgal and Lakshmi Swaminathan ji lived there very near Allen Forest, Nawabganj, and I had a pleasure of talking to them. And anybody I talk to about Netaji is sort of in a trance. They do not see what has happened. It just, there is a person in our village who worked with Netaji's, he was an INA member. And Jai Hind, he would say to everybody. People started calling him Jai Hind Shamsher. That was his name. I particularly liked the idea of celebrating this, and I'm so glad that my view prevailed without any problem. Our thoughtful leaders all agreed, Sunilji, Banikji, Harish Kolosaniji, they all thought that what I have in mind would be an excellent topic And you see the result today. Excellent speakers have given us some new information and has been very inspiring. Coming to Anita ji, she and Martin, her husband, who has been a member of parliament in Germany, and they were students in 1966 when I had just come back from India to work for the United Nations system. And one day we were invited by Dr. I.P. Singh of the Foreign Service, who was first secretary and a close friend. And I went there, we had excellent dinner, and I saw this lady in a sari. And she said, oh, I like sari. My father is from Bengal. And then we talked. I'm so glad I didn't find out beforehand that she was the daughter, because that would have affected, that would have influenced our conversation. So I didn't say anything. We just talked, and then at the next meeting with the I.P. Singh family, they said, oh, what were you talking for so long? And I said, we talked about India's problems, and what can be done, and how India has more resources, and India has an unbroken history. Countries have come and gone, but ours is a continuing history. And I said, we talked about these topics. And she said, she is Netaji's daughter. Oh, I said, my God, why didn't you tell me? So now I see a picture here where we invited her to our house. They had invited us, we invited them several times. We met that way and in the embassy. And there in this picture, she is with my family. And Martin is right in the back, and then my colleagues, and a visitor from India, Mr. Kirpal Singh, a relation, who was chairman of India's Railway Board. He holds Padma Vibhushan. And when I told him that I'm thinking to call them later on, he said, no, please call them now while I'm here negotiating this loan. And I would love to meet them. And I couldn't believe that a Padma Vibhushan, chairman of the biggest railway system in the world, wants to see. He was just so keen. He said, please have them here. So I invited them. They came in their dashing convertible car, and it was so enjoyable, such an enjoyable evening. And you see, pardon me, you see another picture where she's there with my with a minister's wife from the embassy, then my 8-9 years old daughter, and my late wife. And I have lots of other pictures, but due to my recent move, I have not been able to find them. Now, this led to many good conversations, but I could not really follow up because they left to go to another place and then they went back. And unfortunately, although I have been to so many places in Europe, where our just times did not coincide. I think I could go on and on, but I would say that I very much like that family and what Netaji did for the nation. We ought to follow what he said. Secularism has become a word which people don't understand. He was a very good Hindu and he was very secular. And the same approach is taken by ANITA ji. She feels that that story about plane crash is true, and there are so many controversies and so on. Since time is valuable, we are running behind. I would end my talk here, and I would just say, Jai Hind.
Ambassador Harswarup Singh ji, thank you so much for joining us today. And we enjoyed looking on those photos, your personal memories. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you again.
Welcome.
Now, I'll request Ajay Kumar ji, who is a successful businessman and an active community volunteer. He will render a poem about Netaji for us today. Ajay Kumar ji, it's over to you.
Namaskar, everyone. I'm Ajay Kumar from Washington, D.C., and it is a great pleasure to present this poem on Netaji's Parakram Diwas. So, कविता शुरू करता हूँ. पुण्य भूमि यह भारत माता देवों को भी है प्यारी, राम बुद्ध नानक जन्मे और बसते शंकर त्रिपुरारी. मनुज रूप में देव यहाँ पर ध्यान लगाने आते हैं, यश वैभव का मोह त्याग वो मोक्ष यहाँ पर पाते हैं. हानि लाभ सब काल चक्र है, सौभाग्य न सब दिन रहता है, आओ काल आगे देखें भारत का भाग्य क्या कहता है. मन के बंधन से भी स्वतंत्र था होना जिसने सिखलाया, उसके तन को भी बांध लिया, हे काल दृश्य क्या दिखलाया. मुक्तिदात्री थी जो मां, था जिसका वैभव अविनाशी, हाय समय कैसा आया, वह बनी मुक्ति की अभिलाषी. अंग्रेजों के अत्याचारों से भारत पुत्र थे जब शोषित, इस सोने की चिड़िया के धन से अंग्रेज हुए पूरे पोषित. हीरे मोती सोना चांदी भारत का सब लूट लिया, और शासन करने के हेतु धर्म जाति में फूट किया. था बटा हुआ भारत अपना, घनघोर निराशा छाई थी, था विश्वगुरु यह राष्ट्र कभी, ऐसी तो ना परछाई थी. घनघोर अंधेरे को चीरता जैसे सूरज का प्रकाश, भटके भारत को राह दिखाने आए नेताजी सुभाष. थे प्रखर बुद्धि के वे स्वामी, ऊंचा पद पाकर ठुकराया, धन वैभव छोड़ संग्राम चुना, है राष्ट्र समर्पित यह काया. दिल्ली चलो तुम मुझे खून दो, तुमको दूंगा आजादी, बिगुल बज रहा विश्व युद्ध का, हो अवसर की ना बर्बादी. गांधी बोले अभी शांत रहो, अंग्रेज प्रसन्न हो जाएंगे, विश्व युद्ध के बाद भारत को सौंप हमें वे जाएंगे. बोले सुभाष कि पहले भी मिला था एक ऐसा सपना, किंतु प्रथम विश्व युद्ध के बाद हुआ था जलियांवाला बाग अपना. एक बार धोखा खाए तो केवल विश्वास जाता है, बार बार धोखा खाए तो नर मूर्ख कहलाता है. अंग्रेजों को उनके स्वर्ग कभी रास न आते थे, अतः सुभाष कारागार में स्वयं को अधिकतर पाते थे. कैद नहीं हो सकता जैसे सूर्य पानी और प्रकाश, अंग्रेजों को चकमा देकर बर्लिन जा पहुंचे सुभाष. बोले सुभाष अंग्रेजी बल भारत के सैनिक पर इतराता है, और भारत क्या है और कहां यह सैनिक समझ न पाता है. अन्य देशों से मनवाकर स्वतंत्र सरकार बनाऊंगा, है मित्र कौन और कौन है शत्रु भारत को समझाऊंगा. दिल्ली चलो के नारे से नेताजी भरते फौज में जोश, आजाद हिंद रेडियो के स्वर से भारत भी सुनता उद्घोष. जर्मनी ने जब रूस पर भीषण हमला करवाया, तो सुभाष मन ने इस कार्य को भारत हित में ना पाया. बाधाओं से टकरा करके जो पुरुष धीर न खोता है, तूफानों से टकरा करके मार्ग नए पिरोता है. आजाद हिंद फौज को फिर सिंगापुर में बनवाया, एक मार्ग अवरुद्ध हुआ तो दूजा माँ ने खुलवाया। धर्म जाति के बंधन तोड़ भारत को जिसने जिया था, ऐसी अद्भुत फौज बनी जिसे सुभाष ने सिया था। युद्ध हुआ, बढ़ी सेना, इम्फाल में झंडा फहराया, आजाद हिंद फौज का डर अंग्रेज के मन में गहराया। विश्व युद्ध हुआ, जापान हारा, हाय छूट गया यह भी अवसर, किंतु भारत स्वाभिमान का झुकने नहीं दिया सर। अंग्रेजी शासन ने जब आजाद हिंद फौज को तड़पाया, तब बच्चा बच्चा भारत का उनके समर्थन में आया। लाल किले पर दी जाने वाली थी जब इन वीरों को फांसी, सेना ने विद्रोह किया और बंद करवाई यह गुस्ताखी। भयमुक्त हुए भारतवासी, अब और न यहाँ रह पाएंगे, थके हारे अंग्रेज बोले अब बहुत जल्द ही जाएंगे। 1947 में तब भारत स्वतंत्र हुआ, फिर बहुत शीघ्र अपना भारत पूरा गणतंत्र हुआ। अंग्रेज मंत्री से पूछा क्यों छोड़ा भारत से प्रवास, बोले कई छोटे कारण, एक बड़ा कारण सुभाष। दिया मौत को चकमा और गुमनाम रखा अपना आवास, आज तक कोई जान न पाया कहाँ गए आखिर सुभाष। शायद माता को मुक्त कर पूरी देखी हो हर आशा, सन्यासी बनकर मोक्ष पाने की शायद अंतिम अभिलाषा। अंतरिक्ष इस कविता से आज यह बतलाता है, उस भारत भक्त के जीवन का पुनः स्मरण कराता है। यदि सुभाष को जीना है तो धर्म जाति के बंधन तोड़ो, सब भेदों को भूलकर राष्ट्र प्रेम से मन जोड़ो। जब भारत का बच्चा बच्चा सुभाष बन जाएगा, तब विश्व गुरु प्यारा भारत पुनः फिर कहलाएगा, पुनः फिर कहलाएगा। जय हिंद।
जय हिंद।
Ajay Kumar ji, that was absolutely wonderful. I mean, all the life stories of Subhash Chandra Bose ji put it in one poem together. Very impressive. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now I will request Shri Mukund Agase ji, Vice President of NCAIA, to introduce Shri Subrato Mukherjee. Mitro ji, I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, Mukund bhai.
Thank you, Sunil bhai. I have a distinguished privilege of introducing our next speaker, Subrato Mitro. I know him for probably over 20 years. He is a Government of India Merit Scholar student of Mayo College in Ajmer. He graduated in chemical engineering from Jadavpur University in 1969. He was a class representative in Students' Union who saved the life of Vice Chancellor Hem Guhaj during a Marxist and Naxals gherao. We don't hear this word gherao anymore, but in 70s, that one was the word we used to hear a lot. In fact, in 1970, Jadavpur University alumni Gopal Sen, who became the new Vice Chancellor of Jadavpur University, was murdered by Naxalites. Subratoji migrated to US in 1971 and registered in the draft, and not too many immigrants did those days. In 1974, Subrato graduated in MS in chemical engineering from Marquette University in Milwaukee and did his PhD in aerosciences. In addition to his flying career, he has been a keen student of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose life. In 1980, with Shri Ranjan Bora, he held gathering for Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on his birthday. A big event happened in 1996 when he flew, when the flag was flown on the US Capitol for freedom-oriented Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose on his birthday. In 1997, he organized a centenary celebration, which was followed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee, the then Prime Minister, in New Delhi. He has written and published many, many bios, updates, and poems on Netaji. In 2013, he has followed Anuj Dhar's book and wrote numerous Facebook articles to declassify. Based on item of information seen, he has been writing updates on Netaji until today. Today, with Prime Minister Netaji, he also recognizes Netaji as our first Prime Minister of India. He has a poem and bio dedicated to Netaji in which he describes Netaji's entire life existence. Please welcome Subrato Mitra. Thank you.
Hello. I have not prepared anything, expecting that all this discussion, how it goes, and if you have any questions that I could answer. But only up till now, we have only discussed up to the Azad Hind Fauj things, the war. And we have not discussed what happened afterward. Nobody knows what happened afterward because very few people are thinking on those lines. Like Anuj Dar has come out with a book. A lot of people don't believe it. A lot of people don't see it. Prime Minister Modi has not even recognized it yet. But one thing you have to understand is the West Bengal governor's office had received 3 calls from Subhash Bose after his death, supposedly plane crash death. So these 3 records were recently declassified by Prime Minister Modi. And I have it on my Facebook thing, exactly what that thing was. On the 3rd thing, which was in January or February of 1946, which is much after his death, supposedly death, he says that he made him aware that a cabinet thing is coming and they are going to do this and that. And he warned Indians about it, but nobody got to know because it was classified in governor's office. So you have to see these things. A lot of things were classified. And we say our country is Satyameva Jayate. This is a laughing matter. If it is Satyameva Jayate, everything should be kept open. That's my thing. And I hope all Indians go for it. Now, you all know that USA was under the British and they fought and went against it and got their independence. Similarly, we did the same thing. But why are we still under the Commonwealth? Do you know why we are? Nobody knows these things. Nobody researches it. I just went into it and I found there is a London Declaration. And what happened there? V.K. Krishnamenon and Nehru, they didn't have to be under Commonwealth. They created the whole thing. And under the London Declaration, we got India into it. Why? I got a suspicion that it is because they wanted to keep away Netaji. And to keep Netaji away, they had to keep the control of the UK. Because Nehru cannot himself keep him away. There was no way he could do it. So I had a suspicion, and V.K. Krishnamenon later on got in Shanghai as China's ambassador. And Vijay Lakshmi Pandit and Radhakrishnan went to Moscow. And they both denied Netaji. I have a feeling, I cannot substantiate that Netaji was alive and all that as yet, unless these things come out. And they have to come out one day. But by that time, I may not be living. But I have a feeling, and I said this in 2014, I wrote it on Facebook, that he got out in 1949. I read it here and there, everywhere. And he got out in 1949, and he went to both naturally, when you come out of the prison, Siberian prison, all you do is go to the embassy first. And he went to the embassies, the Moscow and Shanghai, and both these places denied him. They wouldn't recognize him. Can you believe it? Everybody in India knew Netaji, and there's no reason to deny him. And because of that, and it took him time, the shock and everything, to realize what to do. And then he finally came to Basti in UP, but all that over the Himalayas, and it took a toll on him. He was ill, he was sick and everything. And people don't agree. Even Chandra Kumar Bose, I'm saying him, Surya Kumar Bose, he wrote to me that it's all rubbish. A leader like that cannot hide. He was not hiding. I've never said in my statements that he was hiding. He came here. All he wanted to do was come back and see what was happening in India. India did get freedom, and he stayed incognito. That's the word I use, because I've never said he hid himself. He stayed incognito. He didn't want to be exposed or recognized unless a prime minister or embassy people recognized him and brought him, honorably. Since they didn't bring him, he stayed incognito, and later on, because Nehru was the ruling, he didn't want to challenge him or fight him. He let him do, because they were they related to the people at that time. So he had just come back after 15 years. You have to understand that his state of mind and all that. So after 15 years, he has lost touch with the people. But if he wanted, he could become president, and overnight he would have been everything. But the thing is, at that time, he didn't want to fight with Jawaharlal Nehru. And after Nehru, he tried to get out and get in through Lal Bahadur Shastri. And what happened. He died overnight. And after seeing that, he just kept quiet. And, after some time, Indira Gandhi became prime minister. And Netaji had gone, Kamala Nehru's, during her death, Netaji was present with Nehru in, where is that, Augsburg and someplace there. And he had taken care of Kamala Nehru's funeral. So you have to understand all these things, that he was very close to them. And he's not going to fight with Indira Gandhi. So all those things became, and by that time, Indira Gandhi died 84. He was close to his death, 85. So these are all things one has to see in perspective and respect him for all these things. He didn't create an internal fight within India, and he got peacefully, and he sacrificed himself. But his objective was met. Just like my objective on Facebook was to make sure that Netaji, because from my childhood, I've always believed that it was Netaji who got us freedom. Gandhi and Nehru was totally useless, because Gandhi said, experiment with truth. I read all that. Nehru said, as soon as he found that Gandhiji is creating the leadership, and he was in there, that he doesn't have to fight. That was his main thing. Nehru's thing was that he doesn't have to fight, and he doesn't have to do, and he saw Subhash Bose getting elected in Calcutta. So he went everywhere making speeches so he can be elected. So that was his main thing, Nehru's. So you have to understand that it was Netaji who was going on his own line, and Nehru was just following it. So basically, these are all the things. If you have any questions, we could answer. Both Chandradai and myself can answer. He's my Facebook friend, and I try to relate to everybody as a mitro. मैं सभी का मित्र हूँ. मेरा भी एक कविता है. अगर आप चाहें तो मैं भी अपना कविता पढ़ सकता हूँ.
पढ़ दीजिए भाई साहब.
मुझे जाना होगा उसमें. इधर देख नहीं सकता मैं.
Maybe we'll do it afterwards. Within the program.
Do it later, few minutes later.
Yeah. Pavitra ji, please go for next program.
Thank you so much for giving us some different story about Subhash Chandra Bose. We'll hopefully have you back to listen to your poem. Now I request our chairman Sunil Singh ji to introduce a few nationally community organization leaders to give their short messages. Each leader will get about a minute to give their message. Sunil Singh ji, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you, Sunil.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to welcome speeches from all the speakers, and they are very close to Subhash Chandra Bose ji, family member, or even Dr. Harsharup Singh,
knows the family, either they know the family or they are from family. It was very good speech, and actually we should have only 2 speeches today, and maybe the other day we would have done the other 2. But anyway, now I want to recognize some of the community leaders. And before that, I want to give some opportunity for some community leader to speak. First, I will invite Hema Rach Maleji from Detroit, Michigan, who is the chairman of the Michigan Indian Community Service and the member of Maratha Mandal.
Namaste. Namaste. This is, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, namaste. Thank you, Sunil ji and Harish ji, for inviting and introducing me. This is a very great opportunity to speak about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and have a respect for him, what he has done for
In the meantime, I found a poem.
Please unmute yourself.
I submitted it already to some of the officials.
Hemaji, please
So go
unmute
ahead.
yourself.
Hemaji is unmuted. Hemaji. Subrato bhai, 1 second. Just hold on 1 second. Let the community leader want to speak.
Hemaji, can you unmute yourself?
Let me go to someone else, Harish.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay, I request Rana President Gajendra Singh Solanki to speak for a minute.
1 minute, मैं पढ़ लूं मेरा कविता.
1 मिनट भाई साहब, होल्ड करिए जरा, 2-3 लोगों का हो जाए, फिर उसके बाद आपका हो जाएगा.
अच्छा, ठीक है.
गजेंद्र सिंह जी. Looks like he left.
Could you hear me? It was disconnected. Could you hear me?
Hemaji, go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. So did I speak because something was disconnected here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. So thank you very much, Sunil ji and Harish ji, for inviting. Sorry, there was disconnect. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, charismatic and driven, Bose displayed unflagging of enthusiasm for the cause of liberating India. The INA under Bose became a model of diversity by region, ethnicity, religion, and gender. His romantic saga, coupled with his defiant nationalism, has made Bose a near mythic figure, not only in his native Bengal, but across India. Bose's heroic endeavor still fires the imagination of many of his countrymen, but like a mentor which enters the Earth's atmosphere, he burned brightly on the horizon for a brief moment only. Subhash Chandra Bose ji might have been a renegade leader who had challenged the authority of the Congress leadership and their principles. But in depth, he was a matured patriot whose memory could be an ideal tool for political mobilization. And thank you again, and Vande Mataram.
Thank you, Hemaji.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe Gajendra Singh, you are there. Gajendra Singh, Rana President. Ajay Singh ji, GoPO President, Maryland. He's not there either.
नहीं, अब मैं मेरा कविता पढ़ूं.
Gajendra Sunil ji.
Gajendra Singh is there.
I see Gajendra
Solanki. Gajendra Singh Solanki. Satish Mishra ji from Hindi Association.
Satish tha.
Okay, none of them is speaking. So let's go, bhai sahab. You go ahead.
Okay. Netaji, initially I had given this poem Bharat Ka Jagran title. नेताजी तू अमर रहे, जिंदगी में नहीं तो हमारे दिल में. छोटी उम्र से जो सपना तूने देखा था, माँ को जंजीरों से मुक्त करने का, उसे सफल करने को जी जान लड़ा दी. अपनी सुंदर आराम की जिंदगी त्यागा. गांधी नेहरू की रुकावट को छोड़ देश बंधु के दिखाया मार्ग पर तू कभी रवि और विप्लवी रासबिहारी के पथ पर डटा रहा। हजारों मुसीबतों को झेलकर तूने भारतवासियों को दिखाया सत्य का निशाना और भारत की सच्चा देश प्रेम क्या है। पाश्चात्य समाज, रूस और चीन हिमालय से भी जूझकर अपना देश लौटा तो किस लिए? वो जनता तो तुझे भूल चुकी थी। आत्मा आदर्श को छोड़ सब कोई भीख मांगे से 900 साल बाद फिरंगी के लौटने पर एक नई लूट में लगे थे। उस तरफ नजर न देख, तूने संन्यास जीवन को फिर से अपनाया, अपना धर्म माना और माँ की गोद में नीरस जो जिंदगी बची थी बिताई। तू हम सब से गुम गया था, अनुज ने ढूंढ निकाला। देश और विदेश में हमारे दिल में वो चेतावनी फिर से जगाया जो सच्चा था। सच का नारा दिल में समाया। सुभाष, तुझे आज हम सब भगवान जी गुमनामी नाम से जानते हैं। जय हिंद, वंदे मातरम।
Thank you, Bhai Sahab. Now I will request Anji, if you would like to speak. Angela Anandji, the president of NFIA National. Angela, is there?
She's not.
Let's move on.
She's there. Angela ji, can you unmute yourself?
Then Renuka Mishra, you want to speak? So you can speak too.
Hello.
Hello, Angela ji.
Yes. Thank you for informing me about this event. I am enjoying it tremendously. It's highly educational. I think the next time you do the program, you should invite the younger group because it is so inspirational. After I have listened to all of you who are well-known, celebrated speakers, I intend to research and find out more about Netaji's life. And I am honestly very inspired just listening to all of you. So thank you for organizing and thank you for giving me the time to speak. Thank you.
Renuka ji, would like to speak?
Renuka ji, please unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Since I did not know I was supposed to speak, I did not prepare for 1 minute, but I will say this is most wonderful, wonderful, knowledgeable, educational, and such a patriotic program that my feelings I cannot express right now, particularly the Honorable Kumar Bose's thing, which he described. I did not know a lot of things. I did an event of Gadar Centennial in 2013 from Gopio, and in that we did recited a song which was Netaji's song of Azad Hind Fauj, and that was Kadam Kadam Badhaye Ja, Khushi ke Geet Gaye Ja, Ye Zindagi Hai, Kaum Ki Tu Kaum Pe Lutaye Ja. So I do remember, and Dr. Harsharup Singh ji had helped us, as well as there was a wonderful person from this community. I forgot, that was Gumman ji. He was president of some organization. He helped us and he knew Netaji. So once again, congratulations to all of us NCAIA to organize such a wonderful program. And I'm happy that Prime Minister Modi has put this Parakram Diwas, and this should continue. And we should follow the footsteps of Netaji. In the end, I will say only one thing, and that is lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime. Departing leaves behind us footprints on the sands of time. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Renuka ji. Go ahead, next. Harish ji.
We'll play a song. Pavitra ji, please go for next program.
Sunil Singh ji, thank you, and thanks to all the organization leaders. Now we have kids from Mahayoga performing Nanna Munna Rahihu for us.
नमस्ते, मेरा नाम अकुला है। मेरा नाम परसमय है। हम दोनों मिलकर नन्ना मुन्ना रायहू गाना गाएंगे। मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद। नन्ना मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद। रास्ते में चलूंगा न डर डर के, चाहे मुझे जीना पड़े मर मर के, मंजिल से पहले न लूंगा कहीं दम, आगे ही आगे बढ़ाऊंगा कदम, देने बाय दम। नन्ना मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद। धूप में पसीना में बहाऊंगा जहां, हर हर खेत लहराएंगे वहाँ, धरती में भागे न पाएंगे जन्म, आगे ही आगे बढ़ाऊंगा कदम, देने बाय दम। नन्ना मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद। नया है जमाना मेरी नहीं है डगर, देश को बनाऊंगा मशीनों का नगर, भारत किसी से रहेगा नहीं कम, आगे ही आगे बढ़ाऊंगा कदम, देने बाय दम। नन्ना मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद। बड़ा है कि देश का सहारा बनूंगा, दुनिया की आंखों का तारा बनूंगा, रंगूंगा ऊंचा तिरंगा परचम, आगे ही आगे बढ़ाऊंगा कदम, देने बाय दम। नन्ना मुन्ना राही हूँ, देश का सिपाही हूँ, बोलो मेरे संग जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद
That was excellent singing, and we are thankful to the parents and the organizations which help our children to be in touch with our rich heritage. Thank you so much. Now I request Shri Kripa Shankarji, who is the past president of NCAIA, to give a vote of thanks. Kripa Shankarji, over to you.
नमस्कार, सबको नमस्कार और पराक्रम दिवस की
कृपा जी।
पराक्रम दिवस की बहुत सारी शुभकामनाएं सबको। सबसे पहले हम धन्यवाद देना चाहेंगे अपने नेशनल चेयर श्री हरस्वरूप सिंह जी को, जो कि 92 के उम्र में भी 29 की तरफ कम्युनिटी सर्विस में योगदान करते हैं और आज भी हम लोगों के लिए वो रोल मॉडल हैं। Thank you, Harsharup Bhai, for all this effort. And also I would like to thank you, our chief guest, Shri Chandra Bose ji, and for his great speech and whatever facts people were not aware, he gave that, and people are still eager to hear from him more about Netaji, because Netaji is in everyone's heart. Every Indians, and not only Indians, even many people in the world like him a lot. I remember one of the incident my uncle used to say that when Netaji was in our district, after he won the election, Congress election, and Mahatma Gandhi mentioned that Patavi Sitaramaiya ki haar hamari haar hai, then he resigned from that post, Bose ji. And when he went to the public started asking that what should we do? Now you guys are apart, and should we support you or should we support Mahatma Gandhi? His answer was very generous. He mentioned that no matter what, you support me or Gandhi ji, you fight for the country. And that was the great answer. No, just go with Gandhi ji or come with me, but fight for the country. That was the greatness. And from my childhood, that a statement is still just rolling in my mind, that how great Netaji was. So I really salute him with all the people from India. Again, I'd like to thank you, our community minister, Anurag ji, and one of our leader, Anirban ji, and Subrato Mitro ji for their nice and good information and good comment on Netaji and sharing their ideas to our community. I would also like to thank our National President Harish ji for just taking the effort to organize this with all the community leader, our Chairman Sunil Singh ji, President Naina ji, and not the less, all our community leaders from various organizations who joined hands with us to celebrate this great event, and our NCAIA team who coordinated with all these people. Plus, we can't leave the artist alone who just gave their good time, good voice, and good talent like a small kids. It was great song and great gesture of them. Plus the singer Sagar ji and Urmila ji and other cultural Ajay ji, he was having good kavita as well. So this was great event, and I can't leave alone our MC Pavitra ji. Thank you, Pavitra ji, for your great work. It was really nice. And now I would like to thank all our great leaders for joining hands and making this event a great success. And we would like to have this kind of event very often. And I'll request the leaders like Chandra Kumar Bose ji and Anirban and other leaders to join hands in future also with us, because this organization celebrates this kind of event, which is very really good for nation, good for our people to know about our history, our current status, and what the next people should do. So thank you very much, everybody, for making this event a great success.
I have to say something, Sunilji. Actually, I requested Chandra Kumar Boseji. He's still awake in the night. He can conclude his speech if you give an opportunity. So we don't want to hold a speaker. So Chandra Kumar Boseji is still there, awake in the India right now, just to conclude
that's really
his
great.
speech about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose.
Okay, that's great.
Okay.
Right.
Chandra Kumar
Okay.
Boseji, Dada.
There was a little bit of technical hitch. I had got disconnected, but I'm back. I'm back like Netaji, fighting for India's freedom and development. So I would like to conclude. You see, I think we have had a very long session. So I don't want to again start a speech, but we would certainly meet again. And I really thank all of you for taking this initiative to conduct this program, because I think a lot of unknown facts about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose must be told not only to the earlier generation, but to the youth of our youth of India. America is a place where our youth, people from youngsters from India have gone, and they have really contributed a lot. I mean, not only to India, but to the economy of the United States. So I think, but they must also know their heritage, history, heritage, and culture. You see, there is a saying which I told to the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, which he appreciated and fully agreed to my suggestion. You see, no nation can prosper if it loses its thread of its history, heritage, and culture. So I think the time has come for our nation to tell the youth about our rich heritage and culture, about our tradition, because unless we really know our roots, we cannot really complete the cycle of being a good human being. You must know your roots. You might be located anywhere in the world. You might have contributed to anywhere in the world, but one must always know the roots from where they come from. You see, the major dates that I could not complete is the 14th of April. Many of you might be aware, many of you may not be aware, that on the 14th of April 1944, the Azad Hind Fauj, under the leadership of Colonel Shaukat Ali Malik, defeated the British on Indian soil. British, they were defeated, driven out from Moirang and half of Nagaland. And Colonel Shaukat Ali Malik, on behalf of the Azad Hind Fauj, hoisted the tricolor, hoisted the national flag on Indian soil on 14th April 1944. And for a period of 3 months, Azad Hind government was in governance in Moirang and Nagaland. This history is not known. This must be known. See, that time Subhash Chandra Bose, as the supreme commander of the Azad Hind Fauj, had given instructions to Shaukat Ali Malik that you march on, you march on. You know that famous tune that the Azad Hind Fauj soldiers, 60,000 soldiers, marched from Burma to Imphal. A lot of you are aware of this song. In fact, the Indian Army has also adopted this song as their passing out marching tune. Kadam kadam badhaye ja, खुशी का गीत गाए जा, ये जिंदगी है कौम की, एक कौम पे लुटाए जा. With this song, the Azad Hind Fauj reached Moirang and hoisted the tricolor. They could not reach Red Fort. That is unfortunate. There are varied reasons for that. You are aware that Second World War, the Japanese Imperial Army surrendered, but another distortion in history, the Azad Hind Fauj and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, till today, have not surrendered to the British. Their fight is still on. The Japanese army surrendered, Japan surrendered. But do you know the other reason why the Azad Hind Fauj could not reach the Red Fort to hoist the tricolor? The Congress leadership at that time, sitting in Delhi, they had joined hands with the British and they opposed Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose and the Azad Hind Fauj. If they would have cooperated, we would have attained undivided India's freedom in 1944 itself. But it's unfortunate that could not happen. So all these historical perspectives must be considered, must be studied. Research can be conducted. Students who are doing PhD on various subjects in history can do research. Why the Azad Hind Fauj failed to capture Delhi and hoist the flag at the Red Fort. But we are very happy to state that Narendra Modi ji took this opportunity, and what Subhash Chandra Bose had stated, he completed Netaji's desire of hoisting the tricolor on 21st of October 2018 from the ramparts of Red Fort. So we are happy that finally we are able to realize Subhash Chandra Bose's dream. And a lot of people talk about the Bharatiya Janata Party as being divisive politics. You see, this has been the tradition of all political parties after independence. But we have a prime minister today. I am not saying this because I am associated with the Bharatiya Janata Party. I have known Narendra Modi ji since 2013. And what I find is he believes in inclusive politics. He believes in the inclusive ideology of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. And that is how we are able to progress and take India to new heights, take India to a new horizon through the 21st century. With these words, I would like to thank all of you for giving us all a patient hearing. And we would meet again and we would discuss about Bharat, about India. India is a great nation and we are great people, people of India. Anywhere, we might live anywhere in the world, but I think the spirit of India is within us. The flame that burns bright is within us. And with these words, thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Dada. And I really apologize to request you to cut short the speech earlier because we have so many speakers. But we greatly appreciate your time, Dada.